What's a red flag that men instantly notice in women, but most women don't realize they're showing it? Story 1. If a woman has no other topic to talk about than other people, especially their exes or women, they lost them to it's a flag. So red you could calibrate color pickers on it. Story 2. I have a friend who ignores me all the time and says it's because her phone doesn't have charge. I went to visit her in the weekend, and her boyfriend was messaging her and she said, "Ugh, can't be bothered with him. Going to tell him tomorrow that my phone was out of charge." Which I then instantly clocked that she probably does that with me. I just wish I called her out for it. Is it spiteful for me to do the same thing back at her? Story 3. Having a million different problems with someone but not being able to talk through a single one of them. After a certain point, you recognize that the solution that they are seeking is to try to dismiss the entire person by racking up the number of perceived flaws in the eyes of the audience that they're performing for, rather than address or solve any actual problem itself. Story 4. When women make things beyond difficult for waiters and waitresses. This is a huge red flag, especially if the wait staff is doing everything right or to the best of their abilities. Story 5. Attention seeking. Looking around constantly to see if other people notice them, talking louder than the environment to draw attention. This weird fake notice me energy, I don't even know how to put it into words, but I can feel it from 100 feet away already. Really bad vibrations. Story 6. Clear lacking of emotional regulation. Huge red flag IMO. For instance, 1 seems to always externalize their own needs rather than self-soothe. It's okay to need someone else to co-regulate, but always? 2. When a woman gets angry and acts in a very reactive or volatile way towards people, then complains or plays victim when hard boundaries get set or when they get similar behavior in return. When you're treating people badly or actively disrespectful, what exactly kind of treatment are you expecting? Story 7. The whole being too good for a simple date. I never met the girl and suggested a coffee date. She felt I wasn't putting in enough effort because she's too good for that to be a first date. She wanted me to take her to a nice Italian restaurant. I would totally have taken her to a nice restaurant on a later date. First date needs to be casual and easy to escape. Story 8. Low effort. When I feel like I'm always the one reaching out, am always the one starting conversations, am the one trying to keep things going, am the one making plans. I've chatted with women who insist they're interested, but put in no effort. And when I start to ease up and give them space, they rush back wondering why I'm no longer interested. It would be nice to wake up to a good morning text, or have someone be the one to say, "Let's do this." Or even if they feel the conversation is starting to hit a stale point, to try and save it. Not place all of that solely on me. Story 9. Am happily married. But one thing that makes me cringe and throws up red flags even from a friend's standpoint is when a woman says they don't get along with other women or always got along better with the guys. Story 10. There's nothing wrong with talking about one's past life and past relationships from time to time. I think it's important to understand how your SO got to where they are today, how that affected them as a person, etc. That's not really first date material, though, nor is it something that needs to be a frequent topic of conversation, especially when a couple is spending time with other friends. At a certain point, it becomes clear that the person who keeps bringing it up is not at peace with their past relationships and is not ready for a new one. Story 11. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. It's not only a bad implication, it's also a weirdly confrontational thing to say before anyone has even said hello. Story 12. Am a woman. So I apologize for answering a question directed at men, but here's one thing I notice that a lot of women do, and some men do, that is an instant red flag. Talking smack about people behind their back, constantly, and in ways they'd never say to those people's faces. You know the adage, if they do it with you, they'll do it to you? Same for this. Usually when someone engages in this behavior regularly, it's out of jealousy, immaturity, unresolved issues, or a combination thereof. Story 13. Trying to make the guy jealous. Once I hit my early 30s, I could easily tell when a date girlfriend was attempting to make me jealous. In my teens, it would work. By 30, it just makes the woman look petty, malicious, immature. Story 14. The use of therapy language to disguise lack of emotional depth. Accurately and precisely discerning your emotions and thoughts is a good skill. Cleverly embellishing behaviors and feelings with social media, hip psychology less so, and really just comes off as you not actually doing personal work. Body shaming. Being obsessed with bringing other people down over how they look, especially when it's things they can't control. Seeing women do this to guys is low. Seeing women do it to other women? Even lower. B rating making fun of their partner in front of people. No idea why this is so common. It's not cute or funny and just makes you look like you hate each other behind closed doors. Story 15. I'm 81 and have been a widow since I was 62. But when I first met my husband, we talked about ideas, current events, politics, etc., as well as books and movies. We listened to music and only watched a little TV. We went out to eat and to see movies only occasionally a concert or play. Basically, we spent our time falling in love and being besotted with each other. We stayed in love with each other until the day he died from glioblastoma. That diagnosis was an extremely hard one because it is a death sentence. In 95 of the cases, the person receiving the diagnosis dies within 15 months of receiving it. I still really miss him. Not that there weren't a few bumps in the road like when living with anyone. But we were simpatico. I had a good marriage with a husband who let me be me, as one of my friends put it. If you can't have that type of marriage, then don't bother because you will be unhappy. Story 16. That arrogant and condescending air that says, I can do whatever I want and treat people like because I'm the prettiest. They often say that they want to meet someone kind, which I find hilarious. Story 17. Being overly worried about appearances, not just their appearance, but how things look to other people. It just screams high maintenance, and I know we'd never be able to relax and just have fun without caring that we're making idiots out of ourselves. Story 18. The lack of enthusiasm. It really applies to both genders, but since I'm a dude, I can only speak on my experience. I can tell when a woman isn't interested. Like, at all. Small things that add up. Facial twitches, hand movements, body language. Story 19. Not offering to pay for anything. I always expect to pay for dates and rarely would let a date pay for anything, but the expectation that they'll pay for nothing ever is a red flag. One of my favorite memories of my wife and I while dating was when we wanted to go out on a date, but I didn't have any money as it was between paydays. She smiled and said she'd gladly take me out and pay. That was the best pizza I had ever had. That was 14 years ago, and to this day she's still a kind and sweet person that is always willing to meet you where you are and go together through anything. Story 20. She gives you a choice between two things. Could be anything. Where to eat, what to do that day, whatever. You choose one. Sometime later, maybe days or even months, you find out you made the wrong choice. Story 21. Entitlement. I dated a girl that insisted her parents' and her grandparents' money was, in her words, money. I'm entitled toits my money. For what? Being born. I don't want a partner who thinks this way. I've been dumped many times, but this is someone I actually dumped myself. Story 22. A circle of friends consisting almost exclusively of straight men. This is usually a sign that she's insufferable and that people only put up with her because they want to her. Story 23. One date. Many years ago, I spent a whole evening with a girl and paid for everything. We talked for hours. Or she did. When she wanted another date, I said, sure, if you could tell me my name. There was no other date. Story 24. When I met my future husband, we spent 8 hours talking about everything. At one point, he stated that he had lost one of his favorite CDs when moving. So for his birthday, I gave him mine. He loved it. I didn't go out and buy a new one, I gave him the one I owned. He didn't know this at the time, but I was going to marry him and I did, and that CD came back to me. Story 25. Making fun of other men, especially just strangers in public. I barely see dudes straight up make fun or talk to a girl they find ugly in their face. Especially the amount of grown women saying EUBUDEBU to men, politely asking them out or trying to approach them. That us up to the point I remember girls from early high school who did that to me. And even now, after I believe I've gotten somewhat of a glow-up, I can trust any girl saying they find me attractive. Story 26. When a chick hits you up, you go to hers. Kid walks in, she creams at them to give us peace, that's your kid, ma'am. Like this ain't that important gives me the ick real quick. Story 27. If you are mean to service workers of any kind, then you are a walking red flag. Wait staff, hosts, gas station attendants, ushers, security, food service workers, custodians. These are all people who make the world run, along with teachers, daycare workers, and mechanics. It says a lot about you when you on them. Story 28. Their phone is never farther than arm's length away and follows them everywhere. Gotta grab something you forgot in your car out in the driveway? phone goes with. Getting up to get a drink in the next room, phone goes with. Story 29. One I've been seeing more and more is self-diagnosing psychiatric, emotional, and mental health disorders based on the content from social media influencers and gurus, and using them to excuse toxic behaviors. Story 30. Woman here. I don't know if we all have the same top comments to read, but I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised about the ones I've seen. I'm so happy there isn't some bullshit in most of the responses, but actual valid red flags from people who are looking to connect with a mature person. Made me kinda happy, I don't know. Story 31. Shitting on their ex to paint themselves as a total victim. Relationships often fail because of both people. It may not always be 50-50, but it's often never just one person at fault. Trying to siphon sympathy from someone who doesn't really know what the truth is usually a red flag for me. Story 32. Am brutally honest. That's not the flex you think it is. It just shows a lack of empathy, tact, diplomacy, and overall a tendency to create unnecessary drama and conflict. Story 33. Wearing insecurities on your sleeve. It seems like the things that are called a show of confidence is exactly the opposite. It's more of a show of how insecure you are. Just an observation is asked for. Story 34. This goes for both men and women not having friends of the same. Very generally speaking, men are better at spotting toxicity in other men, and women are better at spotting toxicity in other women. If they can maintain positive relationships with peers of the same there's probably a reason. There's obviously exceptions to be had here, but the general rule still holds. If you meet a woman who claims to be one of the boys and claims she likes hanging out with guys because other women are too dramatic spoilers, she's the one causing drama. Story 35. I'm a heterosexual girl, but I'd imagine if I were a guy, it'd be seeing that one quote in her profile that's like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. To me, it screams there will be toxic behavior on my part and you'd best put up with it no matter what. Story 36. If we are talking with the intention to date and her responses are, oh, okay, yes, etc., that tells me she's habitual to not putting efforts and I should save my energy. Story 37. Hiding your lack of self-esteem with girly behavior, which is just toxic femininity, all the same as toxic masculinity. People just need to think before they act. Is what you are inclined to do really something you would stand behind on later? Does it lead to a better life for you? A life's philosophy needs to be practiced, and you need to learn to think for yourself. Story 38. Anxiety. Some women just seem like nervous, insecure wrecks. They are constantly questioning themselves in every decision they ever make. They worry about fictional situations they made up in their heads that will probably never happen. Story 39. Running stop signs, not obeying basic traffic rules, texting while driving, generally being unsafe on the road. Like one day my kids could be riding with you. Story 40. If a woman bitches about her close friends. I just know when my back is turned, it'll become the topic of her bitching. No emotional regulation. Bad relationship with parents. Looking in mirrors too much. Story 41. I don't anticipate to get upvoted to the heavens, but this was a real recent experience. A girl went on a rant about all of the medications that she's on and how they react with her. No shame being on meds for anything. Maybe don't use that as an icebreaker. Example, normally I get drunk off of 1 glass of wine, but since I'm taking XX, I don't get drunk until 4 glasses of wine. It wasn't birth control. Story 42. Demanding long-term commitments before there's really an established relationship. Like if you're telling me exactly how many kids you want and coercing me to agree on one of our first dates, you've gotten way too far ahead of where we are now. We're supposed to be enjoying each other's company and finding common experiences. Goals and aspirations should come up organically. This type of behavior tells me that you're feeling pressed and are in turn putting that pressure on a potential mate. It's high-strung and neurotic and is going to lead to additional stress. They don't want to waste more time because they've had relationships in the past that they'd put hope in and feel scorned because they think their exes didn't have the same long-term goals. So no, they're compelled to get more thoroughly upfront. But the truth is that their exes may have been open to kids, but were too pressured and stressed out, or not able to progress on the same timeline that she demanded. Story 43. Their social media. I see so many single women sharing those memes. If you can't handle me at my worst or things adjacent to, men are trash. And they out here wondering why no one wants to touch that kind of baggage with a 39 and 12-foot pole. Story 44. Lying about having a kid. I have absolutely no problems with dating a single mother, but conceal that from me until after you think I'm already invested. Instant block. No explanation. You're done. Story 45. Constantly talking about a single person in their life despite that person not being around, or the topic of the current conversation. Comes off codependent. Story 46. Am only friends with men because I don't get along with other women. Just a fancy way of saying that they can't, or don't know how to maintain healthy relationships and friendships. Story 47-1. Being difficult with waitstaff in a restaurant, asking tons of questions, complaining about the food or drink, or being too picky. 2. Mentioning anything even remotely related to drama among her friends or family. That's a guarantee that she is the problem. 3. Putting the onus of all effort and expense of the first date on the man. It's amazing how many women don't understand feminism. 4. She talks about reality TV or celebrities more than 5 of the time. 5. She talks that way where every sentence ends with a question mark and she says OMG in like every 5 words. Story 48. Entitlement. Some women and few men grow up hot, or different in some way, even in a negative way, such as needing accommodation at school that causes them to get used to a different special treatment than most, and they feel entitled to it. I have noticed it's more common in women, not as a genetic but social consequence. Story 49. Bringing up an ick. I don't get why an ick has become so popular. I've only ever heard it said in a very bitchy way over something incredibly shallow. They are really proud of their ick too, like it shows how funny, quirky, and confident you are when you disregard someone in their entirety over something small. To me, it comes across so emotionally immature. You're literally calling something icky like a child. Please, can we stop it? Story 50. If they ask no questions about you. I usually give it about 3 messages where I'll ask basic questions. If I only ever get answers, not even a what about you, then I know they don't care at all about getting to know me. Story 51. Double standards. If she expects something from me and wouldn't be willing to do same, it's a red flag. Like not initiating conversation, asking the guy out, expecting guy to treat her like he owes her. Story 52. Wearing pajama pants or sweatpants in public. Being comfy is fine, but you gotta respect yourself better than that. You look like you rolled out of bed, decided not to get dressed, and just walked out into the world. It makes men think you don't have your together. Story 53. I like to ask them about what they've learned about themselves. If they bring up a prior relationship or tough time they've had. If the answer is only pointing towards exterior factors, then I know they lack self-reflection and accountability. If the answer is about how they can make mistakes and have learned to be better, then that's a green light all day. Story 54. I started chatting over the internet with a woman that was really super nice. We met, and then I discovered that she was believing that COVID vaccines had 5G chips and other crazy beliefs like this. I tried to act nice because she was hot, but at some point I just lost my nerves and told her I know how 3G, 4G, 5G work, graduated as telecom engineer, and asked her to leave my house. Never saw her again, thanks God. Story 55. Victim mentality. I'm glad to hear your complaints, but if everything wrong with your life is someone else's fault, I'm running away before making it to the list. Story 56. Being a have cake and eat it too feminist. The kind of feminist that wants equality in all the ways that benefit women, but spurns equality anytime it benefits men. Story 57. Putting please be able to hold a conversation on a dating profile. Every woman with that on their profiles are boring as, and looking for you to do all the heavy lifting. Story 58. As soon as I hear the words toxic, gaslighting, trauma, boundaries, triggered, emotional intelligence, pretty much anything that has to do with therapy talk. Story 59. Practical IRL info here. Their apartment smells like they haven't scooped the litter box in several months. Gotta add. Do not walk run. Then orbital strike from your memory. Story 60. One red flag that men might notice in women, which many women may not realize they are displaying, is a tendency to be overly critical or negative, especially about themselves or others. This can manifest as constant self-deprecation, gossiping, or a pessimistic outlook on life. While some may see it as being honest or relatable, it can come across as a lack of confidence or a negative mindset, which can be off-putting in a relationship. Recognizing and addressing this tendency can help foster a more positive and supportive dynamic. Story 61. Being too into astrology. If a girl asks me what time I was born within the first week of talking, I bail. The whole astrology witchy tarot card thing is weird as. Story 62, 1. Acting stupid low IQ because that's apparently what hot girls do, 2. Wear excessive makeup or have plastic surgery. Have designer everything. It's overpriced garbage and means you have a spending problem. Constant drama. The car that cut you off on your way to work is an interesting story. Nobody gives a five. Talks badly about exes. Even if they didn't work out, they were still part of your life. 6. When they test you. 7. Lack of accountability. If you made a mistake, that's fine, we can talk it out. But don't turn it around and make it my fault. 8. Overly secretive. Phone down. Holds her phone in a way to hide her screen. Puts laptop on do not disturb when you're watching something together. Social media addiction. Story 63. Anyone who says that they hate drama is someone who drama follows wherever they go. Everyone hates drama. Saying it out loud feels like protesting too much. Story 64. Exhausting personality. The most recent version of this want even a date. There was this woman behind me at my cousin's graduation, and she just had to let everyone know her opinions on everything. Things like complaining about it starting 10 minutes late or that her brother should have worn a different shirt or that she didn't like the restaurant they were going to afterward or that. You get my point. This was pretty constant up until the students started getting diplomas. I was drained just listening to it as a bystander. Story 65. In dating apps. If you are chubby, just own it instead of taking pictures that try to hide it. It's obvious that you are chubby. Some might like it, others not. But don't fake it. Story 66. This might be a personal one, but too much bling, including heavy makeup, fake nails, and/or fake lashes. Especially cosmetic surgery. It all screams insecure and value appearance over substance. Story 67. Having nothing positive to say. I see that you're laughing, smiling, etc., but your language is negative and you seem to receive most of your joy from tearing people things down. Gross. Story 68. Asking to look through my phone. If we are in a committed relationship for a while and you want the password to my phone, knock yourself out. But if you think after a few dates you have the right to peruse my photos or texts to stir up drama, goodbye. Story 69. Women who like to gossip a lot or talk negatively about others. I know a lot of girls like that and I'm like, nope, we can't even be friends, let alone date. Story 70. The one I noticed was if a woman has no friends. Either means they're the type of person that is hard to get along with, or it's setting you up to be in a position where you're the only social aspect to their life. Either way, it's going to be a drag for you. Story 71. Instantly gravitating towards the guy with the biggest physique. Like if guys only talking to the hottest women in the building is gross, what do you think that looks like? Story 72. When they find a new girlfriend they have something in common with and end up doing anything and everything with them at the expense of doing some of the things with you, and then said friendship burns out in the same year. Way more common than I'd like to admit, but I'm always the one that hears about the aftermath. I'm aware, I was there, being ignored LOL. Story 73. This might be a weird one. Acting especially dainty or ladylike, like covering their mouths every time they take a bite, or sitting there with perfect posture and a plastic smile. We both know this isn't who you are. You are lying to me and it's not appealing.